In the event of war, why would there be a war? Why would someone kill me? I don't know. Maybe they don't like me. What have I done wrong? Had a few affairs. That wasn't very wise. Stole some shit when I was young. That was very stupid. I think I lied when I was young a few times. That was very dumb. Probably did some stupid stuff at school. I like smoking weed, but I think that's kind of boasting in the Bible, which could be the tree of life, or just kind of boasting in the Bible. And the righteous in the future get to consume the tree of life on the New Jerusalem, which is really great, you know. I look forward to that, should it ever occur in our lifetime, or indeed posthumously. However, the point of this is not to gibber, but is what to do in the event of war. Now, war is not a good idea, and it doesn't take a genius to work out why war is not a good idea. It's generally very destructive, murderous, evil, dark, hostile, aggressive, moronic, stupid, ignorant. Have I already said that? Throw it in again. And in the event of these such bellicose, warlike scumbags, we, the weak, have to work out a way to overcome the threat of this oppressive, larger, moronic, tosspot enemy, whoever they may be. And at this point in time in Britain, it's looking like half the world in his gammy granny. Right? But it's got nothing to do with me. I'm not in politics. Well, not officially. I stayed clear of politics because I've got an A level in it, and I suffered. I suffered for 2 years studying politics. It was awful. "40-minute dictation, every lesson, sometimes a double lesson, from an old Irishman who you could hardly understand. Listen to the winds. Listen to the winds." Is it the wrath? I shall be faithful and continue, as God told me wants to do. So there was this teacher, and he taught me politics. And I didn't do very well in my A level. I think it's because I wrote about communism from a very fortunate point of view as a young lad. And that was a really dumb thing to do at a hugely capitalist-leaning school in the Western fortune of post-war glory. Now, I probably should have got an A. But no, never mind. You see, war is stupid. Violence is stupid. Who are these people out there? And it's happening in the streets of England. It's happened to me a few times. You get attacked by psychopaths on crack in gangs. And who the fuck do they think they are? Robin Hood and his bunch of merry men. They're a bunch of nutters, a bunch of scumbags, a bunch of satanic, ill-bred, ill-raised, absolute tossers. They're evil. And when you get people behaving like that, you get things like Hitler, don't you? And that's shit. That's really shit. So these people have no idea of their causal value in space-time history. You know, they make me puke. And they're meant to be our people. I wouldn't die for these people in a fight, would you? These absolute low-life individuals. God. Oh, no, Barney, no. God, I'd rather have them all systematically executed. Something sensible like that. But in these happy days of flowery freedom and nonchalant whatever you have, then you can't really go around executing the scum anymore, because I guess at one level everyone's a bit scummy. You know, we've all enjoyed a puff, if you think that's the route to scumaratus. I don't personally. I think it's a pathway to illumination in some degree. But then that's a controversial political hot potato. And I'll try not to brag about that one. Because we've all been there, haven't we? Well, no you haven't, only I have, but I did, I got there. And I got a load of shit for it, basically. I got a load of shit for being the enlightened one. How does that work? Jesus said we will be persecuted for being followers of Christ and believers in God, and thus crowned in life. I went around telling people about my halo, and they all thought I was a nutter, because they didn't know what I was talking about, because they're stupid. They're not in the light. They're not saved. They're not wise to God's powers. They are the ignorati. But if you want to know what triggered the apocalypse, it was false accusers. As said in the Bible, we're all probably going to die now because of these imbeciles of Satan. And they really are evil, spreading lies and rumours about people you don't even know. And the most devilish of lies is, the height of wickedness. And we've got it going on out there. We've got it in this town. It's shit. The people, not all of them, some of them are lovely, like angels in the heavenly mists of woods. But there's a small cabal of utter human rotting mank who are pure satanic evil, and they operate in the shadows of their own grotesque stupidity. I like to think on a good day, if I was given free rein and a machine gun, I could remove and extract the threat in one night with a bit of excitement and hijinks after a beer. But then I come back down to earth and think, well, that's probably not a very good idea, is it? Because of aforementioned causal vectors, right? There's, a good few people out there who deserve termination, but I am not the terminator. I don't have the right to kill. I'm a Christian. We're not allowed to kill. So we have to suffer these evil morons who have no idea what they're doing. They have no comprehension of much at all. They have no education. They're often pretty ugly. And just what the fuck? You know what I mean? It's awful. And then we think, well, I wish the angels would come and slaughter them all in a massive genocide. A holy angelic slaughter of all the baddies would be sorted. And then you think, well, that's a lot of people doomed. Oh well. God's a harsh judge sometimes, actually. He's a very harsh judge, really, if you think about it. Because if you decide to be evil and follow the evil ones, pointing no fingers, naming no names at this juncture, well, then you're going to fry in the lake of fire forever for being an evil douche. And I don't want to see that happen to people, because I'm quite nice. I'm not trying to say that God doesn't have it right. I don't know what God's true reasons are for torturing people forever, if I'm honest. So I think it's quite harsh. It must be bad. It must be really bad. My gosh, if you can go to hell forever for lying, which most people do every day in this country, thinking it a venial sin, well then you're fucked, aren't you? We've all got it wrong. We all haven't got a clue what we're doing. We're just deluded muppets, winging it on a wing and a prayer. But, I don't think everyone is evil. I can't believe so many people deserve eternal torture and damnation in the lake of fire. But that's what it says in the Bible. So, we're going to have to be good. And I'm sorry to be a killjoy. I'm sorry to ruin the party. I'm sorry to tell little Johnny Onion that he's got to put his pants back up and stop rutting with Daisy Doodah, right? But out of wedlock, that is. And as for Jeff and Bobo, stop that immediately. But you know what I mean? Thank God I've never been a sodomite. That's one of the things I'm most proud about. I know you shouldn't be proud. I'm just glad that I've never felt the need or the compulsion to ever want to do that. And not only do that, but then go and live for it and brag about it and identify by doing that, right? Which is just weird. So anyway, but I don't hate them, I just think they're weird. And then you've got thieves who just cack, no brains. Oh God, they're awful. And then you've got murderers who are obviously shit. And unless you get the real rough lot who, if they murder a nonce, they're a fucking hero. Well, nonces are fucking awful as well, obviously. But it's not just nonces, it's the adulteress, it's porn stars. It is all the generally perverse scummers in society. Motherfuckers. And then what have you got? You've got the idolaters, like foreign cults, right? They're all idolaters, and they all go to hell, technically, for not being true Christians. It's mad. The Apocalypse is the maddest book I've ever read, and I've been studying it for 30 years. You have no idea how many people are going to die. And when? We don't know. Mental. I don't know what to talk about this anymore. This is too much. It's too much for any mortal man to really bear. The sheer dark promise of God's slaughter against all the wicked. But there's a lot of wicked. Apparently. I haven't met them all. I haven't met many actually. I've met a few. But I wouldn't say it's a third of society. Maybe it is if we include the cowards. There's a lot of them out there. Yeah, there's the cowards frying hell as well. How do you tell that to a neurotypical person who's suffering from chronic anxiety or neuroticism? Oh, the cowards burn hell. Well, thanks for living. What a horrible world we live in. Dear oh dear. We're going to have to spank a few chav bottoms out there, I feel. Get them some discipline. Without discipline, you are not a man. You are an anarchic guffball of ignorantus. You need discipline to focus. Focus to see you live, or hear, or sense, or touch, or smell. The senses are the definition to some extent of what reality is to a human being. Never mind, I've said too much. I've said my piece and my anti-war solution. And if you've worked out how we're going to get out of this in the subtext of what I've been discussing, then you're a good man, and you understood exactly the knowledge that I'm feeding you, by which we're going to survive this threat of foreign impending doom. I mean, just think about it. Let's just think about it before I go. How stupid do you have to be a nuclear country invading another country when they know it's going to piss off other neighbouring nuclear countries? And everyone's got nukes, and all the people in charge, seemingly, at least the top pontiffs of many great nations around the world currently, are all psychotic potentate despots. And we're getting back into a 1939 situation, aren't we? Where it's just all these psychotic leaders with their cult followings, just driving the sensible and intelligent mad with their inane bollocks. And Putin's just so James Bond baddie. He's just good. I mean, where's Bond when you need him now? He was great in the 80s, for me. I looked up to Bond in the 80s. Then in the 90s it was alright, but it began to dwindle, and then I really wasn't a huge fan of the new one. It took all the humour away and turned him into a violent little bastard of little charm. But never mind. Oh, and that awful song by that funny bloke. That was the worst song I think I've ever heard of a film. It was ghastly. It was like singing about an emetic. It was like singing sick. Anyway, I've said too much. I must go. But you know, I think we've got to work out how we're going to get through this. Now, how are we going to get through this? Well, I'm going to start by sitting down and having a cup of tea. And if I can have a cup of tea and gather my thoughts, I can see the day ahead clearly. And then I just get on with the day. And I don't seek drama, I don't seek evil, I don't seek violence, I don't seek sin, I just seek God's love and the ebullience of the sun's rays when it does come through this grey schlock of storm out there at the moment. But never mind. I think if we hold together in a nice little hold our hands internationally, interracially, multiculturally, right? Not everyone foreign is a loser. It's true though, isn't it? Some of them are lovely, some of them are better men than me. And that's true. So, you know, don't be a racist. God isn't racist in the Bible, he just says black men from Africa have big willies, which you can see is possibly true. And it's still the case to this day, rather sadly for chaps like me, who is not only white, but you can guess the rest. So here we go. I think I've said my piece. I've probably gone on too long, haven't I? I'm sorry. But I like doing these things for fun and frolics and to see how long I can talk without screwing up too much. So far I've done okay on this one, I think, but it's quite hard to do. You've really got to know what you're talking about, which clearly I do. So that's the end of that. Good luck. Don't be a swine. I nearly said the C word, but that's not actually part of my traditional lexicon validly. And I don't want to see evil or violence out there, because I think that is proper ignorance. Ignorance of the highest order. There is no merit in it. There's no valour in it. There's no heroics or bravery in it for defending the weak from an attacking superior force. And in that, if we have to come to that, then let us do it with absolute merciless bravado. But I don't want to ever get into that position, because that's what idiots do. All of them around the world. My auntie, I was having a discussion with my auntie once, and I said, I think we should be more like Gandhi. If we adopted his Satyagraha approach to non-violence, we might all have a nicer life. And she said, but what about the Nazis? And I said, I mean all adopted the Satyagraha approach of non-violence. That includes Nazis. You see, Auntie Albel? Anyway, no one really listened to me and Gandhi and Satyagraha's floppy toenails. So I'll leave it there. But you know, if you want peace, be peace. The problem is people don't want peace out there. They want drama, they want chaos, they want action and disorder, because they're fucking different. And they haven't worked out how to use their quantum mind yet to generate anything they fucking want. Morons. Tunneling in a supreme vector is non-negotiable. I grow weary of this thunderfucker, nonchalant in the moonlit hour. To what doth my love afford thee? Does it afford thee nothing? I stride on, pantaloons aware. My nemesis is not my guffball. Shut up, it makes sense. What does make sense? Reality. Try it. Have a look at reality. It sort of makes sense in a logical process form of energies and matter all coalescing together in a blancmange of gravity-based activity. But the mathematics behind the complete construct is phenomenal. You can't simply design this one day at home and say there is reality. You've got to examine the actuality of this existence. And when I say examine, I look mindfully within to the conscious element that is existence itself. And in doing so, with a little furnishing of the mind through well thought for and preconceived knowledge by the elders and the ancients, we can furnish our inward soul, beings, minds and hearts to some extent with a wealth of great knowledge and experience activated both in reality and via third-party form in the proxy format of books, which we can learn great truths from, either in science or in maths or in the history of the arts or in culture or in astronomy or in etymology or in entomology or any of the ologies. Okay, and so knowledge really is power to some extent, but then there's degrees of power and knowledge, isn't there? So it all gets very complicated. I was having this conversation yesterday with a good friend of mine, Chris Putz, licensed to chill, and he pointed out that the gradient vector in IQ measuring and gauging is really not that much. It's only 200 on a scale, and even the most thick idiot knows something, and even the most intelligent man doesn't know how to do something. But then I pointed out, that's fine if it's a static gauge, but life is not a static gauge. It's more going to be like a protractor gauge, I reckon. And if we take each degree of increment, which on the protractor is only millimeters separate, and we extend that degree into the distant future, well, by the time you get to the end, we are miles apart from each other. And this is the polarization of people, to some extent, in society, due to the very nature of time, flow, space, continuum, and existence, and reality as it functions. Many friends start out as young friends, peas in the pod, you nothing will break and we'll live and love forever. And then along the line something happens and they just diverge and they just lead on, and by the end of their lives they've led completely separate, different lives. No two lives can be the same by logical analysis of what it is to exist with a conscious existence in a time-based scenario. It makes sense, doesn't it? We're not all one homogeneous mind of autocratic, despotic, atheist horror looming in on our weaker foe to just consume and destroy them. We are individuals cohabiting on a planet with a variety of potential ideologies, theories, ideas, possibilities, philosophies, understandings, interests, inspirations, revelations. It's the wonder plane of the wonder planes. And you see, this is all quite good, actually. It's all quite interesting. I'm not negative about all this stuff. I used to go into W.H. Smith's when I was a kid, and I'd get really excited about all the books. I think, looking back, Freud talks of formative experiences in psychology. I think, honestly, it's probably, if I'm going to be honest, looking back, it's because I associate literature with getting an erection. I got my first erection reading Sidney Sheldon at age 14. My first, oh my God, I'm reading this sexual material and I'm turned on. And Sidney Sheldon's not known to be a pervert, he's known to be a very good writer. But he wrote some of these scenes which were well racy. And that was my introduction to sex. It was these racy, and they're only a couple of paragraphs long in each novel. But he does one or two sex scenes in each novel, and that was my introduction to being really turned on by sex. And it never really lasted because I didn't read that many books, but like that sort of book with sex scenes. I read a lot of books, but they were more serious, more weighty, more down to earth. Although I did, when I would read intellectual books, I would get erections reading them as well. Intellectual stimulus has been something that I associate with being quite happy and turned on, I suppose. But I don't read books and wank as I do it. That would just be grim, and it would be really weird. But no, that's just grim. I wish I hadn't said that, but never mind, we can probably edit it out if I bother. Because if you notice, I'm not putting too much effort into my filmmaking these days because I put a lot of effort into the last film I made, and frankly, because I identify as a Christian, I've basically been shut out from Hollywood and all its tendrils of fans who make films in the low-key realms, who are like the first guardians of persecution against those who don't warrant happily the notion of sodomy. And that, combined with Christian principles which don't correlate with the arguably dark forces of satanic, we might argue, agenda by which to manifest mad illusions of dark horror and perversion, well then you've definitely got a crux in the onion there, haven't you? And so what am I supposed to do? I'm isolated and left bereft on my own, thought of as a nutbag by those who don't understand illumination by God. And thus, I'm quite happy to be alone because it means less drama. I get a lot of peace living alone, and that's what I really appreciate. But I do feel I would be interested in furthering the human population again by maybe having another baby at some point, but I can't really afford them or look after them with schizophrenia, which is a double whammy of negativity if you think about it, when I've had one kid and I'm really proud of her. I think she's doing great. I think she's wonderful. And I don't like the idea she's alone though. I think that's awful. And I would like another kid to have a brother or a sister for her maybe, but not with the same mum, because we used to go, anyway, this is getting too personal. Shut up, Clark. Dickhead. Going back to time-relative vortexes in a graviton-based field, time is an illusion, I suppose, and the more we can consider it a gauged illusion, the more we are controlled and operated by forces outside of our control. And those forces are only human. It's not God doing it, I don't suppose. It's not God telling you to get up and go to work at 9 AM and back by 5:30 and then put on the 10 o'clock news. God is much more free and liberating than many would have you believe. Just don't cross the line with the commandment sins. That's what the plan was all along. And that's what I'm trying to do, is keep the faith of the word and the commandments and the love of Jesus and the embrace of mercy and peace and redemption and forgiveness. Because believe me, with some of the enemies I had in my life, I haven't had loads, but I've had a few, and they were really ratbags to me, and really at a horrible, evil level. And you know, if I took the Hollywood school of thinking, I'd probably go bursting into their house with a machine gun and ice and dice and saying some cool lines and rattling off the bullets, right? Or even worse, devising death traps of Saw-like horror by which to lure in the bastards of villainy. But that would just be bloody evil, and that's what made me think of the theory in the end. There's been a slow decay in morality for years in Hollywood. They're always pushing the edge of what's possible, and I think, like, what's possible morally. And I think in the Saw films they pushed it so far over the edge of wrongness that they crippled themselves. They were hoisted by their own evil petard, if you ask me. I haven't really been a fan of films that much since. And then I went to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino, because my friend said, "Oh, it's so funny." I didn't laugh once. I thought it was appalling. I don't know why. I used to love Hollywood when I was growing up. I still want to. But I think probably the best film I saw at the cinema ages ago that I liked was The Greatest Showman, which was a lovely surprise and a real marvellous film. I really did enjoy that. But anyway, I don't know. What is illusion? What is truth? I think we know the truth instinctively more than we give ourselves credit for when we just talk to people in the streets. You can soon gauge the intellectual quotient of someone by the way they speak generally. It's quite simple to do. It's sort of instinctive, and that's why I'm glad most people leave me alone. Good. So, having said all this, I'd like to wrap up by saying thank you for putting up with me once again as I take you through this symposium of time by which to just think about life, and think about life more philosophically and profoundly and deeply and meditatively before we all die in a war or some shit by evildoers. Can you imagine? You're walking along, you're suddenly shot and you die. I mean, fuck's sake, that's not right, is it? Who gives anyone the right to do that, really? No one. No one. Bloody evil is what it is. But I've chosen to die a martyr when it comes, because the fate of flames doesn't sound my biscuit. The voices are always telling me they want to punish me and put me in jail for what I don't know. I've done my penalty for the one crime I did do, and it was only a venial crime. And it was only a tiny, tiny little moderate act of violence against the liar. And I did my bit, and I did it well, and I did probation well, and I liked my probation officer, who was a Asian skinned man, funnily enough, for all you political madmen out there, who would go raging lethal at the very notion. But he was a gentleman and a lovely chap, and it was actually nicer hanging out with him than it was the ex. But never mind, that's excellent care in the community. And so I've really only got one venial crime to my name, maybe two. It's much caused by the same consternational vector factor. But that's just when you get into I suppose, a relationship that isn't sweet, nice and anti-nice all the time. It was, yeah, let's not open that can of worms. Well, I think I've done very well to live alone now for so long as a complete failure. And I've failed for so long magnificently that one could say I'm the ultimate at just not achieving. You know, I mean, what have I achieved? For want of all my efforts, diddly squat is the answer. And I think it's because I purely can't be asked to keep my room clean. It looks like shit, so when people visit they think, oh god, what is this? And I'm like, well, it's an artist's den, isn't it? And it is an artist's den. And the artist's den is like a fluid, uncontrollable whirlpool of debris and activity a lot of the time. And that's how it is. Which I suppose you could argue psychologically it reflects the inner state of my mind. And maybe it does. But there's nothing particularly evil here, apart from maybe this. But it's not even real. This is a weapon of death, but it's not real. That is not a real gun. As you see, it's a cap gun. But it looks good, doesn't it? It looks the real meaty business. So, you know, I'm sorted if I get attacked. I'll show them that and then run. And it might give me the few seconds that I need to cause the deflection. That would be clever, wouldn't it? Maybe if I don't, you know, they don't even know it doesn't shoot, it just looks so real. So if I got attacked by a gang of chaps, I'd go out, I'd go, stand back. They'd all go, oh no, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. I'd go stand back and I'd leg it. It's probably a good survival system. Anyway, I'm being silly, but that is because I am huge partly silly. Because I like being silly, it's quite funny to be silly. I mean, it's all very well being wise all day and just sitting there pondering and ruminating on the depth of your profundity. But if you're not going to have a giggle at any point in given time, then what's the point in all the wisdom? That's what I say. It's nice to laugh. It is a joy. It's an aspect of joy. Comedy is an aspect of joy, one of the boons of God. The benevolent 9 boons of the fruits of the Spirit. Comedy is joy. Intellectually diagnosed and compressed, I believe. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you for everything you've done for me, government, NHS, humanity, police, people, the ex, my daughter, my family, and anyone who's just interested in how a schizophrenic survives this bollocks of hearing nasty voices. It's not hell. It's not hell. It's just not very nice. It's just not very fortunate. It's just not very decent. But it's not hell. I am not in pain, and it might not be eternal. I think it's just torment of being tested by spiritual psychic forces from whatever creates spiritual psychic forces. And we know so little about that in neuroscience and knowledge and supernatural understanding. Atheism is out of the park now, in my school of understanding. It's not so much, is there a God? It's more, there is a God, how the dickens does that work? Okay, and that's a huge fundamental leap between that and the staunch atheist camp, which is, I'm sorry, they're just awful. They're not right, they are pseudo-fascists of a kind, and they don't have the full understanding of the supernatural developments we now know under epiphanies and wonderful breakthroughs in the supernatural comprehension. Thank you.